horror fans. This is your friendly neighborhood old monster kid. And I just realized that that sounds much creepier than I intended it to. But welcome to Halfway to Halloween. Today I'm going to have a conversation with Ryan James and Sean Haitz. They have a new film coming out called Cannibal Comedian that we're excited to talk about. And just to give you a little background, during today's pre-show, I was talking with Jimmy, who's our leader here at the Horrific Network, and I was saying that Sean's directorial style reminded me of an early Sam Raimi, and I wouldn't be surprised if his career takes that kind of trajectory as time moves on. And with Ryan's an actor. He's been the producer behind Kevin Smith's comedy biopic, Shooting Clerks. And he's also producer on Cannibal Comedian. And so welcome to Halfway to Halloween, guys, from your creepy old neighborhood monster kid.
Howdy.
What's up? Thanks for having us.
Hey, I call myself a monster kid. And of course, I'm from the real old generation, probably like almost the first generation of monster kids. But I know you guys have an interest too in monsters, and that's how you got into the genre filmmaking part of the industry. So why don't you tell me a little bit about how you got interested in horror? And is there an event or a movie that kind of spurred your interest on? And Sean, I'll talk with you. I know we share something in common, Sean, because I've loved Halloween since I was old enough to know there was a Halloween. And I know that you love Halloween too. So how did you get interested in genre? Did it stem from that love of Halloween?
Yeah, it definitely started. I mean, obviously all kids love Halloween, candy, dressing up. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
I would always take it to the next level as a little kid. I mean, I would get my neighborhood friends, and then I was lucky enough that my mom was into Halloween too. So we would make all the graves from scratch, literally like cardboard, cut out and do the whole nine. And then I would actually have my neighborhood friends, and we'd have like a scare yard. So I'd have them jumping out of the graves. And even before I even saw Freddy Krueger, I just was in awe of this character. And I was Freddy Krueger at like 10. So, and it started probably even earlier with like classics like Abbott and Costello, like Meet the Monsters and things like that. So that was that was like the comedy with the horror. And then what was so cool is the horror was actually scary and the monsters were scary, but the comedy was slapstick. And that was the real beginning. So it was all kind of intertwined with Halloween. And then when I got my hands on a video camera, and I started with the digital, that was just the time, and it was easy to just hit record and go. So I really liked that style. So my grandmother would come over, and she had the first video camera, and I would take that out of her hands and just go make movies.
Steal it from grandma, huh?
Yeah. So that was the beginning. Then I could stop there. But that was the whole atmosphere, and just loving the scary, like even my mom would build this it's like a Halloween tree. It would be she'd take an old tree maybe, and it would maybe like this big or whatever, and put it on the table, and then it would be black, and then we put ghost on it. It was literally a Halloween tree. So and that was like before Nightmare Before Christmas, but it was that same kind of level of commitment, and just listening to all those spooky even from
Sounds.
whatever, the Monster Party, Monster Mash, and all
Yeah.
that stuff, just going full on. And yeah, and
So
and
yours
Michael
yours
Jackson's
is the
Thriller
house. Yours is the
as
house in
well.
the neighborhood that everybody wanted to go to on
Yeah.
Halloween. It's interesting that you mentioned famous monster, not famous monsters of film, but Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, because one of the things that I think has made it a classic, and I have the poster right over here in my room. You can't see it, but I got the big poster of it. Is that the monsters played it straight, like you said, and the comedy was surrounded by this horrific, plot. But yeah, that was pretty effective. That affected us all. Ryan, how about you? Where did your interest stem from?
Definitely. I mean, very similar upbringings. Two of us are Florida boys, so we kind of, I don't know if that's just a thing. There's just camcorders running wild down there. But yeah, very much similar type thing, just kind of like grabbing cameras at like ages I should not have, and kind of just reenacting, I don't know, like there's like a showmanship to Halloween where just the dressing up
Sure.
and the kind of creating these characters, and just kind of inspired by films, but also going out and wanting to recreate those films. What's great about Cannibal Comedian is it kind of came around, I think, like during the pandemic, when I was kind of rediscovering a lot of those films I made as a kid, which like I really was into Scary Movie and Shriek. If you know what I did last Friday the 13th, I love like poking fun at the genre and playing for all its tropes and everything, and having fun with it. And that's like right around the time that Sean was working on Cannibal Comedian. Is this horror comedy that just like unlike anything I've ever seen before, and had to get involved with it because it's just fun. Like we're making a horror movie and we're laughing like just as hard as the kills are, and it's definitely something special. But very much so. Halloween just captured this vibe of a like kind of, first was like a day, then it was like a week, then it was like a month, then it was like my whole year is just leading up to like excitement for Halloween, and just that kind of capturing what the horror genre offers. So yeah, this came around at a great time. Yeah.
Sean, I know your parents are both pretty creative people. Your dad is Richard Haitz, who's a pretty talented musician who has a lot of professional credits and has done like music for some pretty popular TV shows. And
that gets a little confusing because my dad is, but my brother's Richard as well.
Oh, okay.
My brother's,
so I've mixed them up.
Yeah, my brother's a composer.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay.
But my dad is a well-renowned pianist and performer as well. So.
Got it. Well, my bad. But you come from a very talented family. Now, your mom is an artist. Is that right?
Yeah, when she was really young, she was a model, and she's she paints, and she just has that artistic approach to things, and interior design she's amazing at. I think I picked that up as well because I'm good with set design and film, and I'm like, let's move that like if we're trying to make a sequence, let's move that over here, let's add some depth, let's do that. And I'm looking at the whole picture, and I think I definitely grabbed some of that from my mom.
So I'm going to guess that was a pretty supportive environment to grow up in, so that you felt like you could branch out and take risks with your career then.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I think my generation so before my generation, it was like you got to go to college, you have to get a degree, and then go out. And mine was like, you have to go to college, you have to get a degree. Like it was like so it keeps getting more like you don't really need that. So. Yeah, I was, I mean, as a kid, as well as like making my movies, I was, helping my dad set up his equipment for his gigs. and hanging out in venues and bars and getting that whole atmosphere. So, because I'm a musician as well, and so I got a taste of that really young too.
Sure.
But yeah, they were supportive. Yeah, I mean, my dad
Great.
was in my sketches, and yeah, and other people in my family. Like when we have a get together, like usually most of the people play guitar, like the cousins, and we'd have a jam. So it's, yeah.
Well, that's cool. That's always so important, I think, when you go into something that has risks, a business that has risks. Ryan, you have a BFA in film production from the University of Central Florida. Now,
but who needs that? Who needs that?
Yeah.
We just went over that.
I was going to say, I was going to say, I'm a teacher. I was a teacher. I had my BA in English. I had my elementary school credential. It didn't help me one bit until I got into the classroom, and then I learned how to teach.
Yeah.
So you have this degree. How did that help you in film production, or did you just learn by doing?
It's a little bit of both for sure. There's like a meet halfway kind of thing, like we are right now, halfway to Halloween.
Right.
But I would say it very much they kind of give you those tools and kind of what's come before you, and at least other like film students and graduate students would end up teaching the classes, trying to kind of give you a little bit of what they learned as well. But the biggest thing that I take away from like that diploma, or how much that costs to get me, is the people that I ended up meeting and working with. For instance, like my best friend Dan Ballister from film school, like he's now my like editor on 2 films, and we first started editing film school movies together. And our very first project that we worked together was a Bill Moseley film that we did in film school. And I asked him, like, do you want to help me get Bill Moseley on this movie? And that's how he started becoming my producer then. And so that's actually a thing that, like, on the set of Cannibal Comedian, Sean and I really hit it off, because his previous film that he had just released, Big Top Evil, also stars Bill Moseley. And it's just kind of like these little connections. Everybody's got something that, like, you know, you grow up and you watch like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies or whatever, and there's already a shorthand. You've already experienced things together that, like, you don't have to learn every single thing about a person to know that these are your type of people that, like, you will gel with. And I would say that that's the biggest thing that I took away from film school at the time, is like those connections that I met then are the top connections that I'd go to today. And I learned from them. I also learned from just like new collaborators. Like every single project is a new landscape to kind of learn about the genre, learn about acting technique, learn about set design, like kind of just feel your way out. So like you're along the ride with us. And that's definitely something I'm proud of, but you could also take that money and throw that into a movie. Cause like school's not cheap.
True.
And, like even the story of like Kevin Smith, him going to, Vancouver Film School, he dropped out halfway through and put that money into Clerks, because it's like, I don't need this. I think I can just go and do it myself. So there's definitely a school of thought for both. That's why I think it works nice with like Sean and I's like combo, is because you do get kind of the best of both worlds. So he's got incredible ideas coming over here. I've got ideas here. And we always kind of play tennis back and forth of like, what's going for more of an artistic approach, what's going more for budget, what's going more for set design, what's, and kind of playing like that. So it's a fun game of tennis for sure.
Yeah. How did that work out for Kevin Smith?
Who is this we're talking about? I think it worked out okay.
I think it worked out okay.
Yeah.
Sean, you've centered 2 of your films around Mangrove, Mangrove Slasher 2, and then
I love Mangrove so much.
And Big Top Evil. Is that your Castle Rock? Is that going to be your Castle Rock? Are you going to have Mangrove? Is it in Cannibal Comedian, by the way? Is it mentioned at all?
No. So
missed an opportunity there.
Yeah. Well, we do have a little bit with Big Top Evil kind of coming into Cannibal Comedian. That was just kind of the continuing that story with the Mangrove Slasher, and because we had Mangrove Slasher 2, there was no first one, so don't look for it. Or people would say, "I saw the first one." I'm like, "Yeah, okay." Or they ask, like, "Where is the first one?" And so
we're still looking.
Yeah, we're still looking for it. So that was just bringing some of that into Big Top Evil. But those two were shot around that same couple of years, so they were really close. And actually, Big Top Evil, most of it was shot in 2012, and it didn't get released till 2019. And
wow!
So these two new ones are very close together. Kind of being like jumping on top of each other a little bit. The Cannibal Comedian and Area 5150. So, so no, Mangrove Slasher, he'll rest.
Well, I think you definitely have like a new location style. I think with these last two movies, like they're very much like sister films, kind of. And they're very much westerns. So like you have your Florida side of movies, and then you have your Western side of movies, and they have definitely different like thumbprints as far as, or fingerprints, like with Western aspects, Western inspirations and stuff like that. And so there's similarities for both, and similar casts, and so, like callbacks to kind of each movie and whatnot. So that's interesting though that you point that out, because Big Top Evil and Mangrove Slasher 2 very much have a similar cinematic language and location kind of feel. And these two, I think, are going to be something special, but still carrying on that kind of like, these worlds you've built. It's kind of cool. It's a great question.
Yeah, that is neat. Have you ever thought about maybe doing an origin movie for the Mangrove Slasher and making the original movie? You know, telling the original story and making the movie. And no.
Well, the one time that kind of threw me a little bit was when I got out of Florida into California, and I talked about it, and a couple of people were like, "What's a mangrove?" I was like, "Oh yeah, not everybody knows."
Dude, I'm from Florida. I didn't even know what a mangrove was. I knew it was like a tree or something, but like I was kind of like, I'd never actually seen one.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
We explain it. We define it in Mangrove Slasher. It's pretty funny. The jock. She's like, "What is a mangrove anyways?" And he's like, "Actually, it's," and he does a whole explanation of exactly what mangroves do. Yeah. So it's pretty funny. Yeah, I kind of knew that a little bit then too, but it was just, that was, Florida thing.
Now, Mangrove Slasher 2 has kind of a shorter running time, right? Is that like, it's less than 60 minutes, isn't it? If I remember right. Was that a budget?
So that movie started with, I was gonna do a music video for my band was called the Jetties at the time, and I wanted to have a slasher in the music video, and then we started writing a script, kind of, and I shot a scene with the Mangrove Slasher, and I was like, this guy. When I first met the guy, Ricky Speck. I was like, holy shit, this guy is a killer. Like, he would be like tremendous as a killer. So I was just coming up with different things that I thought were a little bit, different for a killer. Like, he's got two machetes and he pulls them like this out, and he lives out in the mangroves. But there could be an origin story there. I have a little bit like he was in the military, and and he there's definitely some story of that character, but I forgot your question.
I did too.
I was just gonna go.
It's pretty bad when the interviewer forgets his question too. Hey, tell me, I read an interesting connection, and I'm going to phrase it in what I really think is a clever way. So, what's the connection from Big Top Pee-wee to the casting of Big Top Evil? Does that make sense?
Yeah. What's the difference? Yeah. And the other
no, not what's the difference. Isn't Paul Rubens involved in your casting at all? Didn't he help you with the casting of Big Top Evil a little bit?
Okay, so short story long. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, we can
first,
go long.
First, it was we were talking about 47 minutes, and that's I didn't know to make a feature. It just kept getting longer, and it probably could have become a feature, but I learned that to get the right distribution and things, you need distribution, and you need to try to get some sort of name, like a horror icon or someone in the film. But anyways, yeah, with Paul Rubens, so we have some family ties. He used to work for my uncle's pizzeria in Sarasota, Florida, and then I met him personally. I was working I was working in Sarasota, and then we started talking, and I told him that I'm a filmmaker and musician and things like that. And he said, send me your stuff. And then all of a sudden we were talking, and we hung out a couple of times, and that was during the time of Big Top Evil. And then he met my producer, became really friends with her, and then he didn't have anything to do with the casting. But as soon as I gave him the name, he's like, "Oh, I love that name, Big Top Evil." Obviously, Big Top Pee-wee. He, at the time when I was talking with him, he was gonna do some sort of cameo for us, just to do, not even through his manager, just to, help a brother out. And at the time I was like. He's like, well, I don't know, and this and that. I go, how about just like a walk by, And then I was gonna see if he would actually talk. He's like, yeah, I could do that. So, and it just didn't work out in timing. I forget what he was working on, but he was going back to LA, and it just didn't pan out. But he almost was gonna do a small cameo in Big Top Evil, which would have been pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But we still talk once in a while. I let him know what's going on and things like that. But he's been very supportive. Yeah.
Pointed you towards Bill Moseley and that.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my point.
He did. He said he ran into Bill Moseley at the gym.
Yeah.
And then he told me about Bill Moseley, and at the time, I knew Bill Moseley, but I didn't know his name exactly. But I love Devil's Rejects and House of Thousand Corpse. So when I looked him up, I'm like, holy shit, I love this guy. And then when I met Bill Moseley at Spooky Empire in Orlando, I name dropped Paul, and then that was it went on from there.
Got an inside track.
Yeah.
Hey, Ryan, you've worked with Bill Moseley as well. So what was your experience with Bill?
Yeah, it's funny because, again, Florida boys, we both met Bill at Spooky Empire Horror Convention. Shout out Spooky Empire. He was super cool. And again, kind of growing up, seeing him as a guy who can juggle both scary and funny kind of thing. But the second you need him to go there for that serious, bone rattling delivery or whatever, he's the guy for it. And actually we shot a movie right around his Spooky Empire schedule because he was already going to be in Florida, and literally picked him up and took him across the street to our location just based off of scheduling, and shot his feature in this film that we did called The Art of Villainy, as his cameo in the film and whatnot, just right across the street from the convention center, just so we could have as much time and be able to make sure he stuck to his convention schedule and whatnot. But
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, he's just a super cool guy who's always been supportive over the years, never kind of just been what was that movie? What? I don't remember what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Bye. It's just the dude every time is quoting things from the film, or just super supportive anytime we post anything about film festivals or whatever. And same thing with like, like Sean's films as well, like with Big Top Evil, there's some things in the works that Sean has cooking up, and Bill's been like just as supportive about that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, he's just one of those guys that like definitely took a shot on both of us, like very early in our careers.
Sure.
And it's a thing that actually brought us together, and we immediately bonded over. And, like nowadays, like we'll just be hanging out and be like, do you want to go watch this, the new Bill Moseley movie or whatever? And it's just like, just like watching him kind of do his craft. We're always kind of cooking something up for Bill. Like Bill's always on there, we're always like, do you think something we can work out with Bill here in his schedule or whatever? So like, there's definitely hopefully more to come with all of us being able to like reunite on something someday.
Well, he's very good in Big Top Evil. He gives Mr. Carver, I think, is the character he plays in there, and he's very, very good. I recently watched Big Top Evil. It's on Amazon Prime, and the film looks amazing, Sean. It really does. I mean, I'm watching it on my big screen TV, and I'm thinking, this film doesn't look like a low budget film. And I compared you in my introduction to Sam Raimi, early Sam Raimi. And I mean that in the best possible way. I mean that as a compliment, because the camera is kinetic. I get the movement of the camera. You make great use of close-ups, but the composition that I noticed in the film was just striking. So, how did you achieve that look? How did you achieve that look for a low budget film? How did you make it look like it wasn't a low budget film?
Well, I'm always thinking how to make it look bigger than it is. More characters, more clowns, And at the time, we didn't even have drones. And I was able to get a helicopter shot, shooting out of a helicopter, getting cool cars, getting that's right there, like, top of the mind is like production value, how to make this thing look bigger than it really is. And at the time too, those we shot on 5D Mark II, and those were a pretty hot item in 2012. So I get excited, like, holy crap, we got a good like indie camera, and this footage is looking good. And so, and then like the handheld close-up stuff, I love really getting in there, and, I want to gross people out, with like the eyeball in the soup or something like that. Like,
absolutely.
And I'd have to say, and people say, I get reviews, I was real big into House of a Thousand Corpse and The Devil's Rejects. And so that definitely was in there. If Rob Zombie did a scary clown movie or something. Sure. And then I'm pulling all, just pulling from different things that I've always enjoyed. Joe Dante. As much as I probably didn't have the Joe Dante, like Gremlins kind of vibe, I definitely have that more in Cannibal Comedian and just creating that world. I like that too. That's one thing, like Big Top, or not Big Top, Pee-wee's Big Adventure. He creates this whole world and makes that's a normal world. That's Pee-wee. Everybody loves Pee-wee, and you're in his realm. And that's what I love, trying to create this little world that it makes sense. Makes sense that they're driving these old cars. It makes sense that they don't have cell phones. Because cell phones don't look cool in a movie, like an old TV set.
It's almost too slick in a horror film. When you're isolated like that. Hey, Cannibal Comedian, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that Cannibal Comedian is probably one of the most unique titles in film history. I don't think there's ever been a movie title that has the two words cannibal and comedian in them. So every time I hear that title, the song Karma Chameleon goes through my mind from Culture Club. I start saying Cannibal Comedian. So thanks for putting that earworm in my ears, guys.
No problem.
Where did the title come from? Where did the idea come from? Ryan, let me ask you first, Ryan. What was your involvement? How did you get involved with it?
I actually came out I came out mostly in an actor capacity. Right around that time, I was mostly acting full time, while a lot of my other productions were kind of with sales reps and producers reps and whatnot, doing festivals and the marketing scene and whatnot. But right around when I met Sean was when I was pursuing my main passion, which is acting. And he had this great character for me, Bruce, who works at the comedy club, and kind of gets his jokes like ransacked by who we find is the villain, because not only is there comedians, or cannibals in the film who want to be comedians, but also comedians who cannibalize other comics' routines. And so I fall victim to one of those characters. And then, once I saw kind of Sean's world that he was building, just even like the first day on set, I was like, oh, wow, this is something special here. I'm going to have to keep my eye on this. And we definitely started talking more throughout the pandemic, and just kind of trying to find ways to market the movie. But really at the heart of the marketing, Cannibal Comedians, all Sean. That stuff definitely predated my involvement, but I got involved right as he started shooting, and we've been off to the races ever since. But that origin story was Sean on his own. Yeah,
that's cool. Hey, Sean, did your stand-up come into play with the creation of Cannibal Comedian?
Did you ask if I've done it?
Yeah, you've done stand-up comedy, right?
Yeah, I have.
Did that come into play?
Yeah,
when you developed Cannibal Comedian, was that where the genesis of the film started?
I have a lot of love, and I'm obsessed with stand-up comedy in general, and doing stand-up myself and trying to my best incorporate a horrible open mic atmosphere that people don't even really know about, and trying to pull that into a movie. And the comics that went on stage, and that's when I knew I did it, they said it feels like a real open mic, and some were bombing. And it was compliment. It was, because it's so difficult, because when you watch a movie, it doesn't look like a real stand-up comedy thing, and they're cutting, and I had like one shot on the comedian. This is your one shot to do it. And it came from, it was so easy. The cannibal thing was easy because I had the cannibal clowns in Big Top Evil,
right?
And as simple as it is like, I love stand-up comedy, so but it took a while to get this guy Aaron Prager, who's behind me. I had a couple ideas. I had one where he could be kind of like a Beetlejuice, kind of like crazy, theatric character as the cannibal. And then it went to the classic butcher, bald-headed big guy, butcher, stand-up comic. And then all of a sudden, I met Aaron Prager, and I knew that I wanted him for something, and it just worked out. I sent him a thing. I said, "Can you audition?" And he did a couple of the jokes, and then he threw in a couple of his own, and I thought, I was just like, okay, let's do it. I think you're good. But he totally exceeded my expectations. Like I didn't know he was gonna be that good. Like I'm being totally honest. I didn't see, because I saw later on a couple of things that he had done for some short films or whatever, and I said, whoa, he's a really, really good actor. Like, I didn't, but Ryan knows. He is the Cannibal Comedian. Like, he's like Ace Ventura, that's Jim Carrey. Like, or Robert Englund, that's Freddy Krueger. Like, this guy really is this person, and I'm so happy. Me and him worked so hand in hand, and we were out in this little tiny cabin in the middle of the desert. Literally, this place was called Murder Cabin before we shot there. And we were so close quarters, 1 bedroom, tiny little house. And me and him I mean, it was just an amazing time working with him on that project. Yeah.
There's almost like a Cable Guy aspect that he kind of has, which is like,
oh, wow.
He's so funny and scary at the same time.
Wow, and that's a fine
he really
line,
just does
so.
have that. Yeah, he's got that like that it factor, that lightning in a bottle, leading man, zany, like funny, but also like he'll flip on you in a second. Something also that we kind of like respected out of like Bill Moseley. It's like, and this guy who like, again, you'll see him in this movie and it'll be tough to shake that because like I can never get enough of it. I'm like, this guy should go and do stand up on tour. Like he's that good and he's that charismatic.
And he's a big guy too, so he could dress up as Jason or so that's even cooler. Like he's 6'3", he's a big, like,
oh wow,
like,
yeah.
So yeah. So it's even better, you know, when he puts on. We have this like flesh face, you know, paying homage to like you know, Texas Chainsaw, but he puts that on. Now it's kill time. You know, he's funny and fun on stage, and then when he puts on that mask, he's, you know.
We almost did have a bit about that where we almost played with the idea of him telling jokes behind the mask and and kind of being gimmicky and quirky. And then we got in the edit and we just saw that like when it's mask time, it's like it's business time, like, you know, and business is booming. And like he's after you and you're his next meal. And again, he runs a sub shop too, so he's also selling his victims not only in his day-to-day life, but when he goes on you know, to do the stand-up comedy, he's bringing his shtick, his real life cannibal shtick with him inside, sort of like a Gallagher Carrot Top type of thing. And everyone is laughing, eating it up with all this prop comedy, but the props are people's body parts. And like, you know, like people are just laughing, eating it up. Oh, that's hilarious. But it's like, that's somebody's like pain and fear and like scaredness. And like, but you as the audience member get to dance both sides of the line and see this complex character who can do these quirks, can be all sinister, but also has heart. Like there's romance to this film, which like really works in a quirky way, especially for the horror genre. Almost like a little bit of like Texas Chainsaw 2 has this like very like weirdly interesting, funny, horrific like romance to it as well, with like Leatherface and the Stretch character. And I would say that this was a little bit more like, you know, he's like a handsome leading man. He's not like a monster running around in Texas, but like, you know, like this guy actually, like you'd believe it. Like, oh, he seems like a normal guy, could be. And it's like, no, man, I've got some skeletons buried in my closet. You want to see them? They're in here. I got a few of them. Like, it's literally one of the main characters' His name is Skelly. So you'll see him on the poster.
I have to go ahead, Sean.
I was just gonna say it was so easy to beginning of the question, bring the cannibal comedian, like the horror and the comedy, like intertwine them, because it's like even in the comedy world, it's brutal. You know, it's a brutal world. It's a brutal lifestyle to get up on stage and die up there. And, you know, I killed tonight. I murdered. That's what comedians say in general, you know. So it's a weird thing that never like came together, but that I thought of, and it just, you know, it's just like, it just worked out, you know.
Sure.
It's just it's a funny thing that no one's ever thought of that. So I wanted to get it out before somebody else.
Well, I have to tell you guys that the title Cannibal Comedian is going to have an immediate audience, because that's a provocative title. And as soon as the film gets a wide release or is distributed on a platform, you're going to have a lot of people that want to watch it. What is the status right now, guys, of the movie? I know that your original plan was to premiere it in like September of 2020. So, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
We definitely talked, like that was like a goal for sure.
Yeah.
But we
Sean's
actually
laughing like,
shot. I mean, after September, October, December, we shot a good
yeah,
chunk of what is now like a lot of like the breadcrumbs throughout, as well as the like the pretty much all of Act 3. Like there very much was already in Act 3 in there that kind of we wanted to tie up some more like story arcs and some great like character stuff that Sean had built up, and you could probably see it in a sequel, but like we wanted to make sure the audience had as much of like the best first experience with these characters and the story as possible. So we took it a few steps further and gave, you know, a lot more like some more spooky, funny, some great like prosthetic effect type stuff. Like we really went in and kind of just circled all the things that worked and paid off all those things in a very like comprehensive ending. And that was after that September, October, like kind of 2020 premiere discussion is like, do we think that do we want to wait for a sequel to do some of these fun ideas, or do we want to actually make sure that these things are the best first experience you have? And that's definitely where we're at right now. But to answer your question, it's mostly in the color correction and sound mixing stage right now. Right. We have a great post team that's working on the film. You know, we've got every single week we meet on the film and talk. You know, just the world that Sean has built is very colorful, vibrant, wild, dirty. You know, like it gives you that there's aesthetic. There's certain color corrections you do for a comedy, certain that you do for a horror. Being able to build those in this surreal world that he's got is some of the most fun that we've like had, you know, working on post-production for a film. So yeah, definitely wrapping up here very soon. But every week we get something in our inbox that's something to get like very excited about and that we haven't seen before.
Well, we're waiting, we're waiting with bated breath for it to come out. And you're going to have a lot of fans, I'm sure, of that film when it comes out. Sean, I want to talk a little bit about Area 5150.
Yeah.
The shirt. We just have a few minutes left, but I want you to be able to talk about that project because that's the current one, right? That's the one you're working on right now.
Yeah, it's funny too. Because Ryan was working on other projects, he jumped into this one in the same way as Cannibal Comedian. We shot a lot of it, and we had an assembly cut, and it was that same scenario. So it's funny because Ryan came in that same way, and now we're just trying to tweak and film more things and fix the story and add more production value in places that make sense. That movie, that came. I was going back and forth with videos with Mark Cerulli. I think I've never said his last name before.
It sounds
he said
right.
My last name wrong for 2 years, so we're good. He's a writer, co-writer, and producer on Area 5150, and he plays a character, a great character in Cannibal Comedian as well as an actor, and an actor in Area 5150. So.
And don't skirt too quick over that because Mark plays a heckler in the film, if you are interested in heckling and stand-up comedy, which has become very much in the pop culture eye now, see what happens in our film when the heckler decides to heckle the slasher who's doing comedy. So it's definitely going to be Mark is. I said it a million times, like Mark is so incredibly funny and loud, and like he's a great actor too.
Yeah, that's fantastic, guys. Well,
so the movie, we were going back and forth with videos of people going over the line and trespassing into Area 51 base, like going past the gate. And we were going back and forth with videos, and then having the camo guys called Camo Dudes, which are security for the outer perimeter of Area 51. And they dress in camo, but they're not military. So it's really bizarre. And they drive a white unmarked truck. And when you spot them, it's cool, but scary. You don't want to see it. And they'll, before the signs would say that they could actually shoot you, if you enter in. So we're going back and forth to that. And then I add the idea of having what if you got caught by the camo dudes, but they weren't really the camo dudes? It was some psycho fucking family, like a Texas Chainsaw family dressed up as camo dudes. Now they're gonna take you if you're like, and it started from like a YouTubers or alien enthusiast podcasters that want to go to the Area 51 gate. If they got kidnapped, and that's where the whole world started, and then it turned into like, what's happening at Area 51? We got aliens, and what's happening outside the base? We got Hills Have Eyes, mutants, and crazy families, living in this apocalyptic kind of land, where it's government land, where they're testing bombs. So I go back and forth with those two worlds, and want to do a juxtaposition of Alien meets Hills Have Eyes, and that was the whole thing.
Well, Ryan, I see what you're talking about. Sean's worlds that he's creating. That sounds great.
He's got a great stick. Yeah, it's great.
I wish we had more time to talk, because I got a ton more questions to ask you about your acting career, Ryan, and yours, Sean, and but we're unfortunately we're out of time. But I just want to thank you so much for doing this today for Halfway to Halloween. I really appreciate you giving up your time and talking about your projects. And like I said before, I think in the future, we're going to be reading a lot more about you guys, and all the success in the world with both projects coming out and everything you're doing in the future. Thank you so much for being here.
And if you guys are interested as well in supporting, we have an Area 5150 Indiegogo crowdfunder that's going to be coming soon. We got that thing is just about ready to launch. So if you guys are interested, you guys want to get involved and help us finish the film, possibly wind up in the film, maybe even get killed by one of Sean's monsters, make sure to follow at Area 5150 Movie, because we're going to be posting some updates about that now. And I'm also funding a film, a Dark Circles film with Damien Maffei, Felissa Rose, Terry Kaiser. That's on Indiegogo right now. If you guys want to get involved with that, check it out. We got a new teaser up for that. And thank you guys so much.
Fantastic, guys. Thank you again. Have a great day.
Charlie.
Hope to talk to you again real soon.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.